feel like what we were explaining is this model that Pierre Rochard and Joe Burnett came up with, which is the fee market kind of flywheel loop of high fees lead to scaling solutions, which leads to lower fees, which leads to increased use cases, which leads to high fees. And similar to what we saw in 2017 when the fees spiked, we got SegWit, and that led to Lightning. Yeah. And so right now we're seeing the same thing where, okay, the fees spiked again, and we're going to see the market respond, entrepreneurs respond. We're going to see more solutions come out within Lightning, but also with Fediment. And Jeff, like Fedi just raised 17 million in a Series A, and Ego Death Capital was the lead. I think Fediment's really interesting. I was at MicroStrategy conference and I heard Obi talk, and maybe you could just explain what they're trying to build there, because it's like the first federated operating system. And I think it could maybe help some of these people who are trying to escape from structural adjustment programs in these countries that are suffering from currency devaluations in these developing countries. Could possibly be another tool for them to use. So maybe you can go into that a little bit to finish up this conversation.
Yeah, so first a nod to Alex, because Fedi might not exist in that form if I didn't go to Human Rights Federation with them at Oslo Freedom Forum, and so we were with a group of activists all over the world, and when you listen to their stories, it's hard not to cry. It's literally, they're so touching, and you think, what if my kid was born into that? Like, what does that look like? What are these people born into? So, but a lot of those people didn't understand Bitcoin. And what we got to talking about a lot was, if this is this hard, if self-custody is this hard, and there's so much misunderstanding about what Bitcoin is and what that does, how are we going to get billions of people all over the world to use this in this form? And that's where Fediment, or Obi was already working on Fediment. But how could we create something that could drive massive adoption of that to people who needed it most? And so the idea was born out of really that conference, and Fedi was born out of that. And so I think the one thing is, if you could self-custody, you should still self-custody. But by creating Fedi, they created a technology solution to be able to essentially do federated self-custody in a way that you would use that, like my family could be my federation.
Yeah.
And so my family is not 3 of 5 of them are probably not going to conspire against me to take my Bitcoin. And I operate and for my friends, I operate as I hold one of their seed phrases in a lot of cases. So this is actually just a better way, or an easier way to scale that.
Can I just add, Jeff, that from the NGO perspective, like, as Fedi continues to do its work, and as Fediment, as the open source community continues to iterate, and even as, different ways of doing something similar, like Cashew and others, proliferate, hopefully what you'll have is a system where, like, NGOs can set up their own bank, cross-jurisdictional, cross-border, where a handful of trusted people inside the organization hold the keys to control the bank, essentially. And then the users get privacy, they get global connectivity, they can pay any Lightning invoice in the world, and they even get access to LSP, a network of Lightning service providers who are essentially merchants willing to do foreign exchange for them. So, for example, like, you might, deposit some funds with your NGO's federation, and then you might be able to, like, pay out in Egyptian pounds through an LSP who's willing to be local and handle that relationship. And you're going to pay a fee for that, but that's fine. You might be fine with that. So it's really interesting that, like, you might have, like, an Amnesty International Fediment type thing that Amnesty makes it's available for its members or whatever, where members, it's opt-in. I mean, you trust Amnesty. You don't think that, like, the 7 people who are the key holders are likely going to betray you. because you believe in them. And then that would be a community of whatever, thousands or tens of thousands of people who deposit there and then get certain perks and services.
And carry that forward, and then say I start there in a federation, and I'm into this big federation, and now I have no fees on this stuff, no channel, no people skimming off the top and everything else through this. I'm inside that federation, and then I decide, I'm going to set up my family one within that one. So I set up a separate one, and so you can see these things exploding. And Sam, what you were talking about is how they're looking at this because of the Fediment protocol. You literally have what could look like Apple without a 30% fee structure. You have a federated operating system whereby they're trying to build an open source model where other people can develop tools to help all of these federations, and they don't need to get paid. So you create all of these other different, they call them Fedi modules, but they're just Fediment modules that can be put into whatever federation. Well, it's similar to what your iPhone would look like. Your iPhone is different than my iPhone, right? Because you've chosen different modules. Imagine that entire thing building, but no 30% fee to Apple on the way through. So really, 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 really powerful.
Fediment, I've been geeking out on it, honestly. It just seems like much bigger than what I had initially thought it was. When I listen to Obi's talk, it's more of an entire operating system, like you were saying, and allows people to control their money, but also their data and all their digital lives while protecting their privacy and autonomy. And that's the goal. It's a big goal. It's
not, it's a complement to self-custodying your Bitcoin and your long-term savings, but it's a complement that could be far better than the existing options. I mean, again, like you're talking about competing with let's say custodial Lightning wallets. And these, if properly designed and implemented, are way better. I mean, it gives you local control and it gives you way more optionality. And, you're getting rugged percentages is like way lower than some company in some other country where you don't know them at all. I mean, and then they could get taken down or whatever. If you set up a community thing with people that it is just so much safer from that perspective. So I think this taps into a whole different perspective that a lot of people in the West don't have, which is community banking, which is taking advantage of the trust. I know it sounds weird and counterintuitive because aren't we supposed to be trustless here? But I think you have these two kinds of money in the future. You have your self-custodied Bitcoin where you don't trust anyone, you verify. But then you also may choose to add functionality to your spending ability and make it more private or go through different kinds of currency regimes, etc., by trusting people that you know. And then there's all kinds of cool stuff like social recovery and all kinds of other cool things that can be done there. But I'm very bullish on it as a solution for people who are stuck under these horrible currency regimes, in many ways exacerbated by this IMF World Bank system, and B, stuck with the rising, just brutal reality that transaction fees will get expensive in Bitcoin on chain. So this is something that I think is a key piece of the puzzle here.
Yeah, just another tool, and I see it as there's going to be a spectrum of custody solutions out there, from self-custody, collaborative custody, and then there's the third-party custody. So there's kind of a whole spectrum that people are going to use, and I think the more that we build, the more tools that we can provide these people that are in these jurisdictions, the better.